Well, welcome everyone. I think we'll jump in, and for those who are still getting their technology working, they'll jump in as the evening goes on. So thank you so much for joining us this evening, and I want to introduce Brianna Aspinall, project manager at Park People, who is heading up our
Hello. I think we might have lost Kelsey there just for a little bit. Well, let's see if her internet comes back. But welcome everyone. Like Kelsey said, I'm super excited that you're all here and that we're all going to get to listen to all these different stories and voices. So I want to give it just a little quick introduction to Park People and into the Ravine. But first, just some quick little logistics. So if you're having any technical issues or trouble, feel free to use the chat function, which you will find by moving your cursor over the bottom of your Zoom window. For tonight's event, we're really trying to focus kind of on the stories. So there won't be like any direct Q&A, but you're welcome to kind of add your your thoughts on the chat window and share with other participants. Then for the people joining us over the phone, if you have any issues, feel free to text me at 647-218-0834, and I'll do my best to support you. Okay, so Park People is a Toronto-based organization that works nationwide to help people activate the power of parks and improve quality of life in the cities across Canada. Tonight's event is part of our Into the Ravines program in partnership with the City of Toronto. And this program aims to share these hidden gems while balancing use with protection. So we're curious to learn about the people joining us tonight and the different degrees of connections that you might have with our ravines. So Kelsey's going to share a quick little poll right now to kind of just get a sense of how much you visit these spaces or if they're a little bit of a new thing for you. So just let's see what we hear from people. And oh, Kelsey, it looks like people can't vote right now. Oh no, sorry, technical things. I can't vote, and that's okay because I want everyone else to vote. So let's see what the response is. Oh, awesome. Very similar to one of the first webinars we had earlier. So very beautiful to have a couple of people here who've never kind of been in a ravine in Toronto. We hope this event inspires you to kind of get curious and go outside and explore these spaces. And then for the ones who've already visited ravines, hopefully this gives you maybe a different perspective or a different relationship and connection to these wonderful places. Okay, so even though we're not together in a nature setting, we hope that tonight's event encourages you to go on a walk in a ravine afterwards. Through this program, we really want to bring the city's ravine strategy to life, which we'll share in the chat window. And part of that is having opportunities to share stories relating to our natural environment, as well as honoring the Indigenous history and knowledge of these places. So with that, I'm going to pass it to Kelsey, Senior Manager at Park People, who you've already heard from, and she's running our public event series for the Into the Ravines, and she will guide you through tonight's stories and our wonderful speakers. Thank you.
Thank you, Brianna. So welcome to you all, and thank you so much for joining us for this exciting event this evening. So this is the second of our series of Into the Ravines, and we're honored to welcome three amazing speakers tonight, Hillary Clermont, Philip Cote, and Isaac Crosby. And just before we dive in, I'd like to give thanks to the hundreds of generations of Indigenous people that have for millennia cared for this part of Turtle Island that we now call home. We're grateful for their care of the water, of the land, and the animals that we continue to depend on for our very existence. And we're grateful for their generosity in welcoming all of the newcomers to this land. We also recognize the Dish with One Spoon Wampum Belt Covenant that was a commitment made between the Anishinaabe, the Mississaugas, and the Haudenosaunee to peaceably share and protect the lands in and around the land that we now call Toronto, and the responsibility that we all now have to restore damage done to the land, the water, and to each other through colonial and industrial processes. So tonight is an opportunity for all of us to come to a deeper understanding of how to live in better relationship with our land and with each other through story, through historical understanding, and through practice. With that in mind, I wanted to introduce our colleagues from the City of Toronto that have made a commitment to strengthen the relationship with Indigenous communities and advance reconciliation in our city. And so we have to introduce to you this evening, Selena Young, who, from the Toronto Indigenous Affairs Office, to share a few words about the city's work to advance reconciliation.
Merci, Kelsey. Hello, everyone. As we adjust to this new reality, Tansi Dishnakashan Selena. I am Métis, originally from northwestern Saskatchewan, a Métis community called Meadow Lake, but I've lived in and around Toronto for over 40 years and spent a huge amount of time in the Ravines, so I'm really excited to be here. I'm currently talking to you from very close to the shore where the Credit River meets Lake Ontario. That's where I live, in Port Credit. Like all of you, I'm really keen to hear from these amazing thinkers and leaders. So I'll try and be brief, but I wanted to give you a little bit of information about the City of Toronto's Indigenous Affairs Office because we're pretty new, and a little bit about our commitment specifically to Indigenous placekeeping and placemaking. So we are a humble and small group at the city. There's 6 of us in the office, and we aren't always great at telling people about ourselves. So I appreciate the opportunity that Park People has provided for me to talk a little bit. Like I said, the office is relatively new. I was brought on 2 years ago to start the office after many in community have asked for it for a very long time. So I didn't know this until I applied for the position, but my mom remembers dragging me, teenage me, to various community conversations in Toronto, community conversations trying to lobby the municipal government to have such an office. So it's interesting how things come around. Our function in the office is really twofold. We work externally with Indigenous communities and organizations, as well as allies and partners like people. And we work internally, influencing change across the Toronto public system. So there's about 44 divisions in the City of Toronto, almost 35,000 staff. Very different work, but all have a role in supporting truth and reconciliation and working in a better way with Indigenous communities. And we're trying to help people in the city along that path. As you can imagine, we have lots of different accountabilities, including to mayor and council, but also to the Indigenous communities that we're a part of. And that is truly what drives us in the office. So one of the areas we're incredibly focused on is Indigenous placemaking and placekeeping. And I could talk about this for a really long time because I'm really passionate about it, but I'll try and just share a little bit about what I mean when I say Indigenous placemaking. For me, it's about improving the visibility of Indigenous peoples' histories and current vibrant culture in Toronto. So you hear a lot about the past, but it's not just about our past and our histories. We are here now with contemporary, vibrant, diverse communities, and we want to show those stories and those truths to everyone in Toronto. It's also about decolonizing and indigenizing public spaces. That includes parks and ravines, and exploring ways to better share space and to better tell the truth of the land and the water and the Indigenous peoples that are here in Toronto and around Toronto now. The city has been involved with different placemaking initiatives over the years, but until very recently, we've been quite reactive. We're now going to be able to do a lot more. We have to ensure Indigenous voices are leading this work, and that all the machinery of municipal government is supporting those Indigenous voices that are going to tell us what we need to do and where we need to do it. So in order to help with that, we recently hired a very talented Indigenous woman to help lead that work. Her name's Jennifer Franks. She's going to be joining, she's out there in the ether, one of the many of you joining this event today. Jennifer comes from a family of hunters and trappers, farmers and laborers, all whom had really strong ties to the land. So she understands the importance of this work. And I'll just a couple final remarks. To emphasize again, Indigenous placemaking and placekeeping is a priority at the City of Toronto. We know we have so many amazing opportunities to do good work in a good way with lots of different individuals and lots of different partners. And I'm sure this wonderful panel will plant a lot of seeds in our minds and our hearts of how we can do that work in a good way. And so merci for creating this space, and I really look forward to hearing from everybody today.
Thank you so much, Selena. And that's exactly what tonight is all about, is bringing wonderful Indigenous voices to the table. So with that in mind, I would like to introduce our first speaker this evening, as soon as I can get my introductory slide for you. There we are. So coming up next, we have Hillary Clermont. She's an artist, a storyteller, a cultural resource advisor, and social worker. She comes from mixed Menominee and Métis and Spartan heritage and is a member of the Bear Clan. She works harvesting natural and traditional medicines and works to incorporate the simple and profound Indigenous ways of being into everyday and emphasizing inclusion and peoplehood, and how we can empower ourselves through our relationships, especially with the land. So we are so honored to have her open our evening the way all good evenings should begin, the way all good stories begin at the beginning, with a creation song.
Wow. Bojo, Chitwakwe, Indigenous, Makwa, Indodem, Penetangushin, Indonjaba, Menominee Métis, Indao, Niman Wendam Nongom. I'm really happy to be here, and Miigwech for allowing me to share the space with all of you. I'm so thankful. It's beautiful to hear right off the bat those 7 generations get acknowledged, and the Benojiag, those children, and all the land-based knowledge that we all carry, right? And that is just connected to all of our ways of being as Indigenous people. So I wanted to open up this circle today with a song that was shared to me by my friend Erin Chibopena, and it came into creation through Marie Gaudet. So it's the 7 Generation song. So it's always so nice to open up our circles with those songs. And we're singing for spirit, we're singing to acknowledge all of our ancestors, we're calling in our helpers. I call that auditory healing, but it's also that prayer as well. So it's such a beautiful way to start your day, to sit with yourself. And I've always been told that never be afraid of what you sound like, because you're always singing for spirit. And so it's wonderful that we're starting with this creation story. There's so many different types of creation stories and out there across Turtle Island, across the world, and they're all absolutely true, and they all should be honored and upheld with the most respect and love, and they should all be told. And a lot of the creation stories they all seem to have a little bit of water in that, and it's almost like that ravine flows through those creation stories, and they connect us all with that beautiful peoplehood. So the creation story that I wanted to share with you, I heard it from Isaac Murdoch during a Feast of the Dead ceremony. I'm not going to be telling the full detailed story with all the ins and outs because first, we don't have time, unfortunately, and also it's really beautiful to hear it from him as well, but you guys are going to get the really beautiful I guess, like synopsis of this beautiful creation story. And I always encourage you to seek out more knowledge if it's something that you're interested in. So this story starts off with two little girls, two sisters, and they were playing on the surface of the moon, and they were scratching about that surface. And one of them found a bone, this beautiful slender bone, and she took it and she put it in her hair. And her other sister, she wanted one as well, but they couldn't find one. And a fight ensued because of jealousy. And so one sister took her other sister and she threw her off of the moon. And she fell very far and long and landed into a great body of water. And the whole time there was a makwa on the shoreline, a bear. And he saw this fight happen and the little girl fall into the water. And he called to her and he said, "Why are you sad?" And she said, "Makwa, when I fell off of the moon, I had a medicine pouch. It was filled with star medicine. But when I fell, all of my star medicine fell out of the pouch and settled at the bottom of the lake. I no longer have any more medicine." And the bear said, "Girl, you walk with me and I'll show you all of the medicine of this land and we will fill your pouch again." And the two did so. And after a long, long time, the relationship grew, and so did the woman's belly. She was now a woman and she was pregnant, and she had a baby named Winona, a beautiful little girl. And they warned this little girl to never marry the west wind because the west wind was extremely unpredictable and he would come and he would go. But like all young girls do, you can't tell them how or who to love, and she married the west wind. And so Winona's belly began to grow as well. And she noticed that when it did, thunder would ensue in her belly and across creation. And serpents in the water would get really angry and stir up. One day she yelled, "I'm having this baby." And she grabbed a tree with all her might and she pushed. And out came a white rabbit. And her mother covered that white rabbit with a basket. And she said, "There's something else coming." And she screamed, and thud, there was a black stone. And this black stone ended up killing Winona. The grandmother was so hurt that her daughter had died. She realized that her only grandchild was under this basket, but not realizing that that stone began to roll out of their camp and into the forest. The grandmother lifted up that basket and there was the white rabbit and she closed it. A frog, she closed it again. And finally a child, a beautiful baby boy. She realized this child was a shapeshifter and she named him Nanabush. And so he was so powerful and walked all over creation. But when he became a man, he realized he needed to go and find this black stone that killed his mother. So he went out and he found Mayingan, the wolf. And he asked the wolf, "Have you seen a black stone?" And the wolf said, "No, but you're welcome to travel with me in my pack and search for this stone on your journey." And so that's what Nanabush did. But while he was hunting, he gained a companion, a black wolf, and they hunted together so well. And one day the wolf, the Mayingan, took Nanabush aside and said, "I need to tell you something. One day a black stone rolled into our camp. That stone is your brother, that black wolf. We raised him to be that black wolf." Nanabush realized that he couldn't kill this brother, now this black wolf. And so the black wolf said, as a gesture of forgiveness, "I give you my tooth." And he opened up his mouth and out Nanabush pulled a big piece of flint so he could start his fires. And the two of them traveled back to their homelands together so they could tell everybody that Nanabush had found his brother and he loved him. But Nanabush forgot to tell his brother about those serpents, and one day the serpent came up and grabbed that black wolf and dragged him to the bottom and drowned him. Nanabush was so upset, he took an arrow from his quiver and he began killing those serpents one after another. And the serpents got really angry and they used their magic to make that water grow bigger and bigger and bigger. And Nanabush climbed a cedar tree and he was drumming and drumming, and that cedar tree would grow. He would use his medicine. And finally the tree stopped growing and the water settled at Nanabush's belly button. And he looked across creation and there was all the animals just floating in the water. There was Mung, the loon, Nagik, the otter, Amik, the beaver. And they all came together and they realized that in order to restore creation, they needed to get down to the bottom of that water world. All of the animals tried, but nobody could get down to the bottom successfully. And finally, Muskrat came and said, "Let me try. Let me climb down and try to get that sand and that earth from the bottom of this water world." And they said, "No, you're too small." But he convinced them, and down went Muskrat. And time went on, and there was no bubbles or anything. And finally, a little hand broke the surface of the water. And that was the muskrat's paw. He had 4 grains of sand in his paw, that beautiful earth from the bottom that we knew that was once there. Nanabush took those, Nanabush took those grains of sand and he blew on them, and they traveled for 4 days across the world and restored creation. And the animals began to massage that earth and it began to grow, and they would plant their seeds and celebrate. But one animal was sad, Majike. And Nanabush said, "Why are you sad?" And Majike, the turtle, said, "Because I didn't have a specific contribution to creation." And he began to swim away and climb the shore. And Nanabush took out his last arrow and aimed it at the Majike, at that turtle, and let it go. It swung by and just brushed the turtle's head. And the turtle kicked up its arms and legs. With it, it flung up mud and water into the sky. And Nanabush said, "Look, Majike, look up in the sky. Remember that medicine, that star medicine from that little girl that settled in the water, that settled in that mud? You've kicked it up and put it back rightfully into creation, back up in the sky. And that you created is the Milky Way. That's where our spirits are going to travel when we leave this world." And the turtle was happy. And so that's just one of many creation stories that I love to tell and that you might hear. Some involve a woman falling from the sky at Chensik and entering that water world and having Muskrat come and save her as well. And they're all so beautiful. So I just wanted to thank you for letting me share the story with you. And I hope you all think about that when you're enjoying your time in the ravines tonight. Miigwech.
Oh, Hillary, thank you very much for sharing the stories that have been passed on to you. It's such an honor to get to hear them and to be reminded of, you know, what all of even the littlest creatures, the littlest parts of creation have done for us to make life on Earth a wonderful place to be. And with that in mind, I'd like to bring our story a little further along. So Isaac Crosby is Black and Ojibwe from Anderden Nation, unceded land near Windsor. And he's now the lead agricultural hand at Evergreen Brickworks in the Don Valley, where he teaches gardening, land restoration, and land-based healing. And he has an amazing series of videos where you can look him up. We're sharing in the chat window of Brother Nature on YouTube, and he's actually joining us broadcasting from his gardens in the Don Valley at the Evergreen Brickworks right now. So let me pass the camera over to Isaac.
Anine, hello everyone. Hello, Anine. Welcome to Evergreen Brickworks down in the valley. Yes, my name is Isaac Crosby, also known as Brother Nature. I come from the Ojibwe of Anderden, which is located just a half an hour south of Windsor, Ontario, if you know that area. We've been there, like I said, we're the ones that took in the fugitive slaves back in the 1800s, mixed, married, and mingled. These people look like me, lighter skin, taller, shorter, you name it. We have the whole gambit of what people look like. I come from a vast and lovely, amazing Indigenous farmer background. Learned everything from my grandfather, my great-grandfather, my father. Just always loved being on the land and growing plants and growing food and growing medicines. So here at Brickworks, I've been here for 4 years. Brickworks, we also have programs in the valley. We do in the Ravine, we do Ravine programs, Ravine walks. We do like little tours around here. But my thing is to show people how to do gardening. So being an urban agriculturalist, being an Indigenous urban agriculturalist. So right now, broadcasting you from my garden, if you see behind me, we have a teepee on site. So part of this is all part of funding we got from INAC a couple of years ago to create more Indigenous places at Brickworks. Because I realized, and the other people realized, that there wasn't a lot of Indigenous culture down here and the people were not coming down here. So we ended up getting funding to showcase basically really what I do and help showcase what Indigenous people have been doing for thousands of years when it comes to urban agriculture, but agriculture. And one of the things I actually do is show people how to do clay pot irrigation. So clay pot irrigation is using we used to use clay pots. So we dig down the ground, take the clay pots out, fire them, and we'll use them in our gardening. So what it is that clay, if you unglaze clay, meaning there's no paint on it, it's permeable. So if it's in the soil and the soil around it is dry, that means that the water will slowly leach out into the soil and dampen your soil, thus taking care of your plants. If your soil around it is damp, the water will stay inside the terracotta pots until it's ready to be used by the plants. So one thing I'll show you, if you can see behind me, I'm going to show you guys a few of them right behind me that are in use. If you see down here, there's one terracotta pot right over there. That's just one. I have a few of them inside here. The plants that I have growing down here, I have lots of corn, white corn, I have red corn, black corn, you name it, I have all the corns down here, even the sweet corn. But one thing people need to know that all corn can be eaten as sweet corn at certain stages in its life. All right? So that's one thing I teach down here. Another thing I like to do is show people how back home, because I love potatoes. We love potatoes back home. But we also do a bio-intensive potato planting. So we'll use all these potatoes inside of our sister soup, we call it. So down here in this big box, most people will only take care of the top part. I do not. What I do, learned from my grandfather, was to plant potatoes first. So down here, what you see, a potato plant. So that goes down 9 inches, go over 6 inches, and keep putting all your potatoes inside there with the eyes facing up. Plant those first a month before, and then you plant your corn. Then on top of that, you plant your beans, and then you do your squashes. So the whole thing happens when the potatoes would die down first. They can stay inside the soil until the corn, the beans.
Isaac, it looks like you might have muted yourself.
Uh-oh, hold on.
Oh, then you're back.
Okay, I'm back. All right, so we also have the amaranth growing. This is Hopi red dye amaranth. There's also the green amaranth that we have growing down here as well. So this Hopi red dye amaranth right here, the whole plant is edible. The whole plant, if you put it in water, will dye your clothes a nice shade of pink. Another thing I also show and have growing are lamb's quarters. Some people know them as goosefoot lamb's quarters. This is a lamb's quarter that has a fancy red dress in the middle. Sometimes it has a white dress in the middle, which is amazing. And also there's goosefoot. They all are part of our ancient greens that we used to be eating or still eating today in North America, in Turtle Island. What you can see right now behind me is, this is all the corn. This is the Tuscarora white corn. Isn't that beautiful? Look at the size of that corn. I will say this though, I am going to have a late harvest. I planted everything late because of the virus that was going on. That's still going on, but that's okay. We need a late harvest. So I always make sure I teach what I know from my grandfathers, what I know from an indigenous perspective. Because if we're going to take care of this world, we need to go back and learn all these indigenous agricultural techniques. Because we've been doing it for thousands of years. And especially a great place to do it is in the ravine. come on down to the ravine and check out brickworks. Come check out the gardens. Check out the fact that we also have pawpaw trees growing down here, which is one of our traditional foods, which I had to get a few samplings down. So we have to have pawpaws. If you never had a pawpaw tastes like a cross between a mango and pineapple. Has big seeds in it though. The only problem with pawpaw is that it will rot after it ripes within 2 to 3 days. So you got to eat it quick. If you don't eat it quick, you got to use it for something else. This is one of the pawpaw trees that are on site right here. Beautiful, beautiful fruit, amazing fruit. The whole plant has, the only pest for this plant is a zebra swallowtail butterfly. I mean, who doesn't like butterflies? We need to have more zebra swallowtail butterflies. If we're going to take care of the monarchs, let's start taking care of the other butterflies as well. So hopefully we'll bear some fruit in a couple of years. There's about 7 of them on site. There's one behind our main building that actually bears fruit. So last year I got two big pieces of fruit off it. It saved the seeds, and now the seeds are growing inside the greenhouse.
Amazing, Isaac.
You're welcome.
Oh, thank you so much for all your knowledge and also being able to broadcast from the garden and give us a tour. It's like such a delight when everybody's stuck at home during COVID. And, you know, to know that we have, you know, access to such amazing exotic fruits, you know, that the earth brings forth for us if we only remember what they are and how to find them and how delicious they are. So definitely check out Brother Nature to learn so much more about Isaac's work. We wanted to make sure we saved a moment to ask a few questions to Phil and Hillary all together. We're so honored to be able to bring all of your expertise and your stories together, talking about, you know, everything from creation to Toronto Pre-Contact to the great Indigenous-led work happening in the city right now. And we had 2 questions that I'm just going to spit them both out, and you guys can all respond with whatever comes top of mind. So the one is, for those of us that are very committed to reconciliation in our hearts, if you can speak to us a little bit about ways we can put this into action to propel reconciliation and the work of decolonization in our cities, in our neighborhoods, in our workplaces, in our politics. And then the other one, related a little more directly to the land. What would it mean for the healing of our relationships with the land and with each other to have Indigenous understandings embedded in our landscapes, in our cities, in our buildings, in our parks, ravines, and public spaces? So I'd like to put it out to Phil, Hillary, and Isaac, whoever wants to jump in first, and whatever resonates with you most there.
Okay, the first one, reconciliation. I always say, listen to the people. Listen to the people as we tell our story. And on top of that, you must believe the people when we tell our story. Don't try to change our story to fit the narrative that you need to have happen. So listen to us, because we will tell our story. So we know our story.
That's a really good point. Because our stories are a million years old, according to my stories. And I think that's pretty interesting. And I don't think any other people in the world have a story as old as ours. And the thing about our stories is that they're oral. And what's really beautiful about the oral stories is that they are living. It takes a living person to pass the story down to another person, and so forth and so forth. So for thousands of generations, our stories have accumulated much knowledge.
That's really beautiful. I love too, Philip, how you acknowledge the language and how it's always action-based and how it's embodiment, right? And I think that a lot of youth across Turtle Island are really feeling that we're still in the truth aspect of the truth and reconciliation movement, or initiative, I guess you could say, and how you said it really well, Kelsey, in the sense that I think you like almost answered your own question, speaking about the reinvigorating these spaces with an Indigenous presence. And it's that land back movement, right? Like you see it all across. It's Indigenous people want to have that direct access to land in order to, like Isaac's doing, to steward it, to teach, to revive traditions, and to live in that way, and to be able to share with others our direct perspective in that relationship through how we interact with the land. So
we did promise we would be done by 9, but we also have a wonderful offering and a way to continue this conversation. We really want to hear what people got out of tonight. We'd love you to take some time to reflect. Take a moment in a natural space, possibly in your local ravine. Something that catches your eye, take a moment there and gather your thoughts and share them with us. Like, take a picture of this magical space and share with us
Yes.
what came out of this evening for you. And with that in mind, Hillary has super generously put together a medicine bundle that you want to tell us what's in it, Hillary?
So I render like bear fat, and I harvest medicines from the earth, and it's all ethically harvested and donated from makwa that would be used for mijim, for that food. And so I have some bear cream. So bare bones balm is a cream that I make myself and small batches. So whoever sends the most wonderful thoughts and the most wonderful photos and reflections, I will be mailing you some of this beautiful mshkikin, so this beautiful medicine. So
wow, I'll take one.
Wow. I know.
Well, I wish we could all
I'll
get
send
together.
you one, Philip. No worries.
I wish we could all get together, because I'd like to do an eagle wing ceremony with you guys.
Oh, that would be beautiful.
That would be beautiful.
Well, now that we're all connected, we can make miracles happen. So I'm so grateful for everyone's contributions this evening. Just coming up on the screen is the place, if you are connected on Instagram, a place to share your thoughts that will continue the conversation and share people's reflections and learnings from this evening. And there will be many more events to come.
So, hey, can I say one thing?
So?
I just wanted to share one thing, that, you know, the word of our times and what we've done here tonight is called reciprocity. We can't get something without giving something first.
And we're not in person to do this, but I did bring a tobacco bundle for everyone to thank you so much. I will give it to the earth on, on your behalf.
Miigwech. I appreciate that. For sure. That'd be beautiful intent.
I can't thank you all enough for being so willing to share all your knowledge and your thoughts and your stories, your expertise. And we will definitely keep working to bring Indigenous voices to the forefront, to share our stories, to come together for other important gatherings. I'd just like to let everyone who's listening know of the next event coming up within the Ravines. Meanwhile, if there's any other important Indigenous events or resources that anyone listening or any of the presenters would like to direct people to, just share them with me and we'll share them out with all of the registrants along with the recording of tonight's event. And then coming up, the next event Into the Ravines will be on July 27th. And we're looking at another huge issue of resilience and climate change. And we will be joined by David McLeod, who's Toronto's environmental specialist, who will look at the role that ravines play in protecting our city in the face of climate change, and then how we can protect our ravines in that reciprocal manner to make sure that the ravines have the health to protect us in the face of climate change. So with that, I'm trying to keep everyone, let everyone go back to their evenings as we promised, even though I know we would probably all love to talk until the stars came out, and I know all of our presenters could. I just wanted to say the hugest thanks to all of you for sharing, for everyone for joining, and I do really feel like this evening has been incredibly valuable. The sharing of stories and the way that we've been able to connect. And I really hope that everyone has a moment to reflect and think about how tonight's conversation has maybe shifted the way you think about your relationship to the land, the way we think about our relationship with each other. And I'm just so honored that we've had the opportunity to have this talk this evening. And I feel like it's been a big step towards reconciliation. So we do have a survey that you'll be directed to as you leave the webinar this evening to let us know where you're coming from, how good of a job we did of reaching out to you, your thoughts on this evening. And I'll share with you one more time before we part ways how to connect with your thoughts about this evening so we can continue that conversation on social media. If you're not an Instagrammer, I'm not myself, that's fine. You can send me an email with some of your thoughts and we'll enter you in the draw for Hillary's wonderful medicine bundle. So thank you, Miigwech, to everyone for your contributions this evening.
Miigwech, everyone.
Have a good night, everyone.
You too.
Bye.
Bye for now.
Take care, you guys. Bye.
You too.